Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so excited about today's podcast. I'm Jennifer Bagley, CEO of CI Web Group and host of the Catalyst for the Trades. This is an interesting one. I'm missing Chuck. My co-host is not with us today. We specifically planned this, but he'll be back with us next week. I have the blessing and pleasure of having his sister and colleague, Miss Dana from Opus and Gold, with us today. And we've been working together for now, what are we on?
I don't even know. Let's see. You're probably close to a year and a half now.
Maybe a year and a half. Yeah, absolutely. So I've gotten to know both of these guys. Dana and I met at a conference, a women's conference, about a year and a half ago. And I think it was like soul sister moment because the second we started, we're at a home service conference. But when we got a glimpse of each other's background, we both come from the retail industry. We both have global supply chain management, project management, operational management. And I was like, oh, my fellow nerd, I love her.
Yes. It was an instant kismet, of course. We could talk for hours and days.
That was it. And what an interesting transition to wind up in the home services, but how beneficial it is, right? All of the background and history, it's relative.
Exactly.
So talk to me. You've made pretty big transition, multiple transitions, right?
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about you. You and your brother built one of an amazing legacy business in the home services and the trade space, growing the business from 12 million to 20 in under 3 years, which that is not easy unless it's through acquisitions. So if you were to just pick out 2, 3, 4 of the top biggest impact, high leveraged activities that really changed the trajectory of the business, what would they be?
It always will be budget. Like financial, you have to dig into your numbers. Like that was a big thing for us. We didn't at the time, Chuck would just look at his phone, what's in the bank, yep, we're good, which is crazy when you think of that. That was 12 million. He was still doing that. Like kudos. So we definitely had to get our everything wrapped around the P&L. We had to get a budget, all of that. Second thing would be processes. There were no processes. So I came on with Chuck at year 8 or 9 when he was at 12 million, 75 people. There were no processes. There were no job descriptions, anything, nothing like that. And so we had to get a handle on all of that. And then I would say the third thing was accountability, which is kind of crazy, but as we work with clients now, it is such a huge component. But I think that as you start working with numbers and doing all, there's just a flow and you get into the spot. If you're not holding people accountable, you get stuck and actually start going backwards if you don't. And we're seeing it firsthand. And so anyway, yep, I had to start holding people accountable and processes, and we had to define jobs and all the things. I would say those are the 3 main things, in addition to all the typical marketing and all of that. But we weren't the calls, thankfully.
Yeah, and that was a lot easier marketing back then than it is now too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even before, from when I started, when we were at 12 million, 75 employees, up to when we sold at 20 million and 130 employees, it was drastically different. And that was just a year and a half ago. And so it has changed so much as we're navigating all of that with our clients and stuff. But you have to, back to the numbers, you have to know your ROI on things. We were always looking at that. What's working, what's not. You're talking with your marketing team. We were on with our marketing team all the time, asking these questions. If something was working, not working, reviewing things, even digital realm, we were reviewing. Okay, we used postcards for years. Guess what? They're no longer working. So we went away with postcards because yeah, exactly. But we were doing that on a regular basis, for sure, quarterly at a minimum, and heavy analysis when we were getting ready to budget for that next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I just did a webinar this morning, and it was a financial mastery with AI webinar. And it was interesting because I wanted to start there, but when I drove into just the first initial questions, I just wanted to make sure some fundamentals were in place, right? Does everyone on here have job descriptions for every role? and it was less than 10%. And I was like, "Ooh, all right, what about SOPs for those job descriptions?" And then it dwindled again. And then I was like, okay, so for those of you that have job descriptions, have SOPs, do we have proper KPIs by department, by role? And are we measuring them? And then it dwindled again. And I was like, this is going to be tough, yo, because what we need to be doing is forecasting performa and projections, and we don't have the basics in place to be able to get there, because I think a lot of companies are in that same position where they're running their business based on today, and if they're putting a little more energy into it, it might be based on yesterday, i.e. historical data, um, but not even to the point where we're setting those goals, performas, projections, and then what are those touch points throughout the entire year to be able to reforecast based on actuals. Like, how close were we?
And this is where the retail comes in. So when I came in, I was asking for numbers from our, I don't even know, director of administration. I don't remember what her title was
Mhm.
back then. But I was asking those questions because I was a corporate buyer, and I was used to looking at Tuesday of this year versus Tuesday of last year, looking at weather. Are we up, down based on where I should be for the year? So I was looking at our numbers in such a different way. And she's like, wait, what are you asking for? This is crazy. But I ran the business using that philosophy right up to the end. Going back on I always knew, like, every month I was going Tuesday to Tuesday. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's May 1st versus May 1st. You want to look Tuesday to Tuesday, because then you can tell, am I at least trending up, down, or what over the year? And for us, we always projected a minimum of 10% year over year. So I knew anyway, I could go on and on about that. But that is the first thing I looked at every single morning, were those numbers. And then if something was up or down, I was digging in more accordingly. If I started seeing a trend up or down, I was pulling in the directors and saying, hey, I'm noticing this. I was looking, is someone off on vacation, or, is someone new, like, what's going on, and having the conversations with the directors and the managers on that, which is a very different way of looking at things.
Yeah, I would agree. I 100% agree. I was giving them what an annual schedule for financial analysis might look like. So I broke it down into January doing budgets and pro formas, February doing CAC, or your cost of acquisition and attribution evaluations, because you're wanting to do that prior to getting into the busy season. March, I had job costing and tech ROIs. April, MRR growth pans and what their MRR per ratios were for maintenance agreements. Then I had May, financing, payments, costing, credit card fees, financing, making sure that we've got those blended costs in. Mid-year, doing their forecast revisions based on their pro formas, because we've got some actuals. Then I had July, team KPIs, making sure they know their tech scorecards, CSRs, booking, close rates, all of that. August, marketing ROI and attribution, which that's the time when I think that, like, I'm busy being busy, rocking chair syndrome. I'm just fighting fires and not looking at anything. But it was interesting as we were going through this because, well, one, it was obviously a big aha moment because everyone in there was like, oh my gosh, I was like, how many, at what periods, what's your cadence for managing those financials, and what's your schedule and what's included in those? And I mean, it was none of those things were important. And that was funny because on the call, I was like, okay, so if no one has OCD about this, I need you to call Opus and Gold. It's like, I have a friend that does care about these things and will hold you accountable to hitting these evaluation schedules and metrics and so forth. Because, man, otherwise we're just shooting in the dark. Like,
Exactly. And it can be super overwhelming as well. I mean, that's kind of where we were at too. It's like, where do you even begin? I mean, like, Chuck making it to 12 million without, we have a client who made it to 25 million
mm,
without that. And of course, I'm like, Chuck, think of what you could have done. Think of the profit you could have been. He's like, why, thank you, Dana. But it's true. Like, if you
mhm.
would have had all of that in place earlier on, like, what could your company have looked like? And it's not that I want, to live in the past or anything like that, but it makes a difference. We knew, our managers knew, and our people knew what they needed accomplished each and every day. So a CSR knew how many calls they needed to convert. Our service experts knew what their conversion rate needed to be in the field. The managers knew overall what their team needed to do every day. They knew that by day, week, month, quarter, etc., because that's how we had them set up, and that's how their performance pay was based on.
So
it takes a lot to get there.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, you guys have interesting dynamics. You've got family dynamics. You've got the technical expert who knows home services. Chuck's amazing. Like, that guy knows home services inside and out. He is a true trades professional and a motivator for anyone that's in the trade. At some point, he had to, like, how did that happen? How did he finally get to the point where he wind up bringing you into the business? And then what was the feeling or response of everyone in there going from kind of that fly by the seat of your pants, we're good at what we do, but these are not important? Like, what period of time did it take for them to become fiscally responsible, financial mastery, measuring towards KPIs, projections, and everything else? What did that feel like?
Yeah. So like I said, he was at 12,075 employees. He called me one Thanksgiving and he was talking to me about something marketing related. I was like, what are you doing? So what I haven't said, like I have the corporate retail background, but I have super strong brand background and marketing, like old school marketing, think like print, that type of thing, not like digital realm. So we were talking, I'm like, what are you doing? That makes no sense. And I was like, what is your person doing? What's your team doing? And so we just started this conversation. He's like, Dana, just come work for me. And I just started laughing. I'm like, no. And so that's kind of how it started. We bantered back and forth. And then by the weekend, I was in Utah and looking at the business. He's like, just come out and see my business. And that's kind of how it started. And then by the end of the weekend, we're both like, we don't know what this looks like, but we're both feeling it. Like it needs to happen. And so I started working for him with no job description, no experience in the industry whatsoever. Like I can import fixtures and product. Like that's like, I was a buyer. I know how to start a brand from the ground up. I do high level strategic thinking. So people might be like, what? All my friends were. We're like, what are you doing? And you're going to work for your brother? Are you crazy? And so I just went in. So back to how did people respond to me? It's funny. I had a conversation with someone this week and they said, oh, we thought you were the mole. I was like, okay.
That's why.
Yeah, which that was part of why he wanted me to come in. He's like, I'm getting large. The company's getting large. I need to have another family member who knows everything just to make sure everything's on the up and up, all of that. And he's like, I've got young kids. I don't want to be in the day to day. So the ultimate goal was for me to take over. And that took a good 6 months for me to learn it, to learn the trades. But I was talking about this earlier this week. I had to earn my credibility. So how do you do that? My strength is in brand. And so I started with our marketing team and looking at the logo. And Chuck just like cringes every time I say this. I'm like, Chuck, your logo looks like it was done in Word. He's like, maybe it was, Dana. Maybe it was. But it was how he started off with, like, of course, like you're a new business owner. You're just like, you don't care. You're just going to go. Right? Like he wasn't a brand person. And so anyway, so I started with that and I started looking at everything. So I started to earn credibility from the team from a marketing perspective. You also have to realize that because I come from corporate retail, like Chuck and I had this conversation. I'm like, I'm not going to wear t-shirts and jeans. That's not who I am. Like today, I'm in a dress. Like that's just me. I might wear fishnets. He's like, I don't care what you wear. Just be you, And so I had that battle too, because I was nowhere near like everyone else in the office. But it's interesting because Chuck's like, you haven't instituted anything, but man, the leveling up in the office of people has happened since you've arrived in the way you're dressing. Anyway, so it's all of that. I had to earn that credibility. I had to show that I was willing to learn. I would say within the first month I was there, we had a home show. It was Thursday to Sunday. I went in, of course, from a brand perspective, like I oversaw it, did all of that, but I literally worked from start to finish every single day. in heels and about killed myself. But I got to know every one of our employees, and I was proving a point that I was willing to like get in the trenches with them. And so like it was a whole process. And so slowly, just over time, I would do that. They would see me taking out trash right up to the end. Chuck and I were both like that. If we saw something had to be done, cleaning the bathroom, we were going to do it. Taking out trash, doing dishes. Like that's just who we are. And that's part of like getting in the trenches with the team. I also did a lot, like because I was from corporate, we did get a little bit of, we're turning corporate. And we're like, we had to a little bit because as we got in and started digging into things, we realized where we were at profit wise and we were up and down. And so we had to stabilize. And so there were some things, some systems and processes we had to put into place. And as part of that, they thought we were turning corporate. So we shared with them the whys behind it, and that helped as well. So that's kind of,
I've definitely been through that phase.
it's not a fun phase, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and there's the period of time where you have your legacy group, which was kind of the down and dirty, and then the newcomers. That's an interesting phase. And both are critical, right?
Yeah.
Both are critical. I do, like, even in my own business, if I look at the original, I call them the OGs, go figure.
Yep.
But right, the original OGs, like that was a different process for them. They started for peanuts. I didn't have benefits. I didn't have all those fancy things in place. Like all the books were open. We knew whether we were doing good, and we knew at the end of the year, if we got money left, I'm throwing bones your way.
Yep, exactly.
And then it like changed over time where now we have pay bands and all these benefits and but you still have both of those groups inside the same organization. And that it's different. It's different. Like those sweat equity earners out of the gate. And then transitioning, it's hard for both. It's hard for both groups. Yeah.
But don't you find, and maybe you're at this moment right now, it's interesting because it's happened twice in my life now, in my business life, where like selling all hours, like we were in the midst of that, just like everything that, we poured into that, especially that last year and a half, like it was crazy intense and fun. And I loved it. And all that, you don't even realize you're in something beautiful until after the fact. And I was reflecting back on that recently, and it's such a beautiful moment. And it's like, again, you don't even realize it. I had one of our employees reach out to me the other day, and she's like, okay, I'm on my second job since I left all hours. And she's like, I thought it was just the company that took over. She's like, but I really realized it was the magic that you guys created. And she's like, I'm sad. I don't know if I'm ever going to find it again. I know. I'm like, you will. But anyway, like it's those moments where those people are just like, they are in it to like, just get there. And it was just such a beautiful, hard, wonderful time.
Yeah, I love entrepreneurship. I love it to my roots, to my soul. I also loved corporate America and climbing that ladder too. Like that, it was very, I definitely, I love both. I do think there's an advantage for both of us to having experienced and intentionally climbed that ladder and then flipping sides. I think it gives us a different perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it would be hard. It would be hard. I couldn't imagine having not had that and then trying to be an entrepreneur because I had a specialty,
Yeah. Well, you think of even how I was looking at numbers. It was coming as a buyer's perspective versus like someone typical who might have come in. There's like so many of those types of things. And so,
yeah, I see it even in my own business. My background is supply chain management, but I own and operate a marketing background. So everyone wants me to be the visionary, which I can only do because my father was a visionary in coding and IT and systems engineering. And so he gave me enough of that to be first in everything. But operations, once you're an operations baby,
Oh yeah.
got to get in those weeds. I need to see it.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so I think that every business struggles with, when do I start to bring in these resources that can help us level up, that can help us scale? From your vantage point, like, what's your process for determining what next level looks like, and when to make those calls? Like, is it a financial moment? Is it a feeling? Is it a goal? Is it an exit? Like, what drives that?
You're saying like for our clients?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, for us, each of our clients, everyone's different. Like that's part of when we're talking with them, whether they're a client at the time or not. That's part of the conversation. Like, what is their goal? Like, and it varies based on our clients. Some want to just be out of the day to day, to have someone to run the day to day for them. Some know that they want to exit in the next couple of years to 5 years. And some are just like, I just want to continue until I retire. And so that's what we just have those conversations. And then we do an analysis, using SWOT, like where are you at currently? And then how do we get you on path? Which sounds super simple, but as you know, it is not. It is like a haul, and it's a continuous evaluation to get someone where they need to be. Because we all have those days. Like,
Yeah.
we do, where we just get overwhelmed and we're kind of spinning, from that standpoint. And so, we help come alongside people and remind them of what their goal is and encourage them, and sometimes have the hard conversations as well. Doesn't mean that they're going to listen, but that's what we do. That's what we're hired for. And so we're not going to be there to allow them just to continue what they've been doing, because they're going to continue to get those same results then.
Yeah, 100% agree. So I didn't transition real well here, but let's talk about Opus and Gold. You guys sold the company and you guys decided you were going to build Opus and Golds together. Let's talk just a little bit about, what is it? What do you guys do? What's your mission?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so we decided that, hey, we make a great team together. Everyone's like, how can you work with your sibling? We make it work. And like, we have a respect for each other, and we're very different from each other. And I think that is why we work so well together. And so I was looking at, do I go back in corporate? Do I start something on my own? And Chuck's like, no, let's do something together. And so we just started having that conversation. Okay, we kind of know what we're doing. Okay, we really know what we're doing. Why don't we go and help other in the trades? Like, I love the trades. If it was up to me, Chuck, I would still be running Chuck's company. Like, I was sad when we sold, to be very honest, and he
Yeah.
knows. And so that's how the Opus and Golds group was formed. Is we started a year and a half ago, and has just kind of grown. We were talking this morning that it's interesting. You get your Facebook memories and you look back on things. I'm like, Chuck, I can't believe how much we've changed even in a year. Like, we're
Mhm.
constantly evaluating ourselves and how we're running the OG group, and how can we be better, and how can we show up better, and all of that. I'm like, I'm kind of proud of us, and the things that we're doing. And like, even now, like, we're talking different things, like how can we make things better. And I think that's super important as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, to look at those type of things.
Yeah, I agree. Self-assessment, real self-assessment, without the candied glasses.
Yes. Yes. And I think being siblings, there's no candy coated. Like, we're both like, we're pretty, I don't want to say we're brutal, but we're really honest with
Raw.
each.
Raw. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely are. And we've had to have those conversations. I mean, Chuck, I don't see, he loves to have this conversation, but during COVID, it was right after I started, he had to really take a look at, like, oh my gosh, can I really afford Dana? She's a hard cost. And so he like had to have a conversation with me. I don't know what this is. Like, is it going to impact us or not? I'm like, we're going to be siblings no matter what. Like, you have to run your business. You do what you have to do. And that kind of set the tone for our relationship and as business partners going forward. So we're pretty open with each other.
Yeah, I think you guys are the lucky ones. I mean, it's not on topic, but we might as well go there. I work with my husband. I have multiple My son is in the business. I have multiple small little families that are not related to me that one
Yeah.
person's been good and we wound up hiring a brother or a sibling or something that or a sister that's been really, really good decisions. But I don't I don't think that's always the case. Like, when you're talking to the small businesses, I know how it goes. In the beginning, I had whatever money I left with from corporate, no funding. No one gave me some big check to start this business. I just raked up my credit cards and went for it.
Yep.
Like, I think this industry is filled with that, but that also means that you're begging, borrowing, and pleading from any volunteers that are willing to help you in your business. And at some point, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, um, those volunteers, or maybe you don't have the right butts in the right seat. At some point, you have to. Is that part of what you guys do? And how difficult is that conversation when we still are carrying some of those roles that maybe aren't the right people in the right seat? It was the original starting crew, but not necessarily the right crew.
Yeah, absolutely. 99% of our clients have family members working for them, just like we did. It wasn't just Chuck and I. Like we had multiple family members, including my daughter, who was our director of marketing, that reported directly to me. And before she even started, because I had to let another family member go who wasn't
Yep.
going well, I'm like, I'm not going through that again. And I'm like,
Mm.
clearly I'm your mom. You know what the expectations are going to be because you are family. You have to perform double because you're a representation of me and you're a representation of your uncle. So that means like above and beyond. And so those are the conversations. And we like, it wasn't like that until we had a bad situation. So we had to have those conversations, which was the best thing. So yes, we absolutely, there have been multiple things that we've recommended and people have implemented based on family dynamics in the businesses and some very uncomfortable conversations because unfortunately people have a hard time holding family members accountable. And so we like whenever we hear someone hiring, it's like great if we can catch it in the beginning, but if they've already been there, then there has to be some really hard conversations that have been
Calm.
happening. So
Coming to Jesus meetings.
yep, they are definitely that.
Just put it on the list. It's got to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would agree. I think one of the things I'm noticing is that a lot of companies are struggling with um, the process of being able to bring down their payroll costs through automation and what that means right now. Um, 'Cause there's a lot of things that you don't need people to do anymore, and that's a struggle. So it's not even just friends, but everyone in the business.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like ultimately at the end of the day, like I told Chuck, you have to run a business. So what's right for your business? Yep, I know you want to take care. And this is where Chuck's like, you're so hardcore. I'm like, I am a business owner. And that's ultimately, what you have to run your business on. And it's like, do you want to be here in the next year or not? And so you have to stay ahead of that. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to make those decisions. Do you really need that role anymore? Because there
Yeah,
is such out there.
those are tough. They weigh on your heart.
They
Like, buckle up.
absolutely.
Yeah, they do. They weigh on your heart, especially when you love the human, right?
Exactly.
But
But
buckle up.
is there somewhere else that they can work within the company, or is there someone else that like do everything you can to help them out? Because
Mhm.
odds are they've been with your business and helping you out and all of that. So I'm not heartless, I promise.
No, I get it. I live in that space. I love, and then I also decide.
Yep.
Um, it it is what it is. So you've been busy. I know that you have another business venture as well. Uh,
Yes.
Talk to me about Adora.
Yeah, yep. So I decided, so when I was running Chuck's company, the day to day, we were part of a group. It was mostly males. And it was really hard for me. You might get females here and there at different levels, but they weren't at the higher level. And so I've had a few people come to me and they're like, Dana, like, we think you need to start something. And so I started the Audara Collective, which everyone's like, one, how do you say it? And two, what does it mean? In typical Dana fashion, I mean, I'm a creative as well. It's a made
Branding.
up name. It's a made up name that
Yeah.
represents me. So I wanted to communicate, like I wanted it to have like strength and leadership, but sophistication. And because of my apparel background, apparel like Audara Collective, like how perfect.
Yes.
So it's a women's right now. It's a women's, but I'm working on something else. But it's Audara Collective is the umbrella, and then have Audara Exchange, and that is a group of women. We meet weekly, and it's all about. I have owners and operators in there. It's basically people who are wanting to level up. And so it's different than the OG group because it's about the person personally, like helping them level up as a leader so that they can be a driver in their company. And so we talk about anything and everything. This week, it was even talking about management style and, having the hard conversations, but also praising them, that 5-to-1 ratio. Or it might be about human design, which is a love of mine, has nothing to do with the trades world. And so, but all of it can help you as a person, like navigate yourself personally, as well as within the business. And then I have Audara House, which is for the higher level business owners. So in there, we're talking about all kinds of crazy things, from dealing with hiring, of course, like that's always a topic, to, hey, I want to be on a board. How do you go about that? Just like different type of conversations and just showing up and being real with each other. Like today I posted, my crew wants me doing day in the life videos now. It is disrupting my mojo. And so I'm like, this is stressing me
Just
out.
gave me goosebumps.
Yes, because I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I can do this. But it's messy with, I'm like, I forgot to record my lunch. I forgot to record this, but I just like did this post. That's the type of stuff we're talking about in that group, because it's just like, it's random stuff, but stuff is business owners we're dealing with, like juggling all those things, but also trying to be present for our spouse, our significant others, our family, grandbabies, all the things. I know. And so, yeah, that's what those groups are for, like just making a safe container. And it's this beautiful thing. And it's just, yeah, it's another way, again, helping in the trades. It's just a different segment of it that I'm doing, and I'm loving it.
I think that is highly needed. Highly, highly needed. I think even for myself, like I don't have a network of women who are in a similar position facing, I don't think I do. I mean, I don't, that are, having to have those same, questions, being able to talk openly about whether it's acquisition or due diligence or hiring, or I work with my husband, and he came in this morning, right, while I'm prepping for a 4-hour financial masteries thing, and was like, wanted to talk about the registration on the car. How do you tactfully, those are, and the transition from, I mean, you said it, like, I'm gonna be a grandma. I'm so excited for that. So but it also feels like driving down the freeway at 200 miles an hour and then somebody just dropping your car straight into reverse. Going,
Yes.
like,
And,
that's tough.
and it's how do you manage all of those? And, to be super open and vulnerable, for me, it's like, being an entrepreneur and running multiple business, like we get really in the, or at least I do, in the masculine energy and trying to step back and get into that feminine energy. So we've had conversations about that in the higher level group, and what does that look like? How does everyone do that? And, just how do you juggle everything, but just keep
Yes.
going? And how do you, this is my problem. I am super passionate, especially when I'm doing something that I love. I could work 24 hours a day,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not healthy. And so keeping myself in check, and what does that look like? And so anyway, yes, because there's no, like, there aren't many groups like that out there that,
Yeah.
that. So
Oh, I'm going to need to join the house collection. I got
Yes.
issues. Oh my gosh. Just the transition from whenever I finish from 9 p.m. and I'm like, turn it off and now become spouse. Like it takes a conscious effort to transition or to even turn it off.
Yes. For me, I'm finding in the last couple of weeks, what's been helping me is I'm just like, I have lots of energy, and especially after coming off the day. It's been looking like, you want to watch news? No, thank you. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna go walk. He'd be like, bye. And so we figured that out. So I'll go walk for a bit, usually come back to my red light therapy, and then I'm good.
You transition. Yes. It's like we need a warp zone. Transition from CEO to spouse, mother,
Yes.
grandmother, whatever that is. Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
Geez. Okay. So there's obviously a lot of different ways to get connected with you, but we have one more. So you have an amazing podcast as well. Talk to me a
Yes.
little bit about the Accelerator.
Yep. So I co-host that with Melanie Sloan, who is actually our director of administration at All Hours. And so we were looking to fill, I'm a huge podcast listener. I listen to podcasts all the time. It's how I get ready during the day I'm sorry, before the day. When I'm working out, that's what I do to get my intellectual. And so we're just like, we wanted to share our journey and talk about all the things. But I'm also super big on like mental health and my journey through that, and not becoming a victim based on things like working through stuff. So I'm super open about those conversations, along with like, what did it take to drive the company? And Melanie is the same. And so that's why we started the Trades Accelerator. And I think we're getting close to where we're approaching like maybe 40-ish episodes that have been out. Like we actually have more. We bulk do those. But yeah, so everyone we've talked to is that go to 100. Like that's what you need to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
we've been doing it, and it's been really a great thing. And I don't know if you found this, but between podcasts and the different social stuff you do, the different Zoom meetings you have, it's just amazing how your presence can change by doing that stuff over and over, let alone in-person events and stuff
Oh
too.
yeah.
It makes you change and grow, whether you realize it or want to or not. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
You're
I agree with that.
and you're learning new things. Like I didn't know like what it was like to interview someone. And we're like just like you, we're super casual. We're like one and done. And so it's a great thing. We've really been enjoying it. Excuse me.
Yeah, I love it. I think every business owner should either be a guest every year or they should start their own. I mean, there's
Yes.
there's 101 reasons why, right? It's content generation. It increases your interviewing and your education, knowledge, cross industry. You're learning other people's stories. You're helping everyone that's listening. Something's going to resonate with someone, and if they can find right, if you took from this, whoever's listening, if you took 2 or 3 things that you go, I want to have those conversations, or I'm thinking through this process. That was a great tip. That's something I can implement tomorrow. Or now I know who to call when I've got transition issues, right? Whatever that is. I, it's incredible. I've enjoyed the podcast. I sure have.
It has. Like we had no idea what we were getting into, like even to set it up. Like that was a whole thing in and of itself, and all of that. And then like fine tuning based on what people are listening to and watching and all of that. But what has been fascinating to me is the amount of people who are interviewing, whether it's with us or for Melanie. They're like, oh, I've been listening to your podcast just to see what you're like. We get that from clients too, saying, oh, we've listened to you guys, like to
Hmm.
Chuck's podcast and mine and Melanie's. And it's like, okay, like it's out there. And I am, of course, I was a buyer. So I love looking at the stats, like the different people you interview, who's listening on Apple versus Spotify versus watching on YouTube. Like it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also one of the greatest content generation activities you can have in the world of AI, where you can generate millions and millions of pieces of content. Like this is real. and the AI search engines are picking it up. Google's picking it up. You're essentially, as a business owner, if you decide you're going to launch one or be on as a guest, you're replicating yourself, which I know every business owner wakes up and said, well, if I could just clone myself, we'd be doing better, right? How can I find people like me? You can. That's what a podcast does, right? Makes copies of you. And those podcasts of yourself are out there doing the work while you're doing something else. So build content.
Yes,
Critical.
absolutely. And it's just interesting because I've never really thought about it from that standpoint. But I know we've had people say, "Oh, we've heard your podcast," and Chuck and I are like, "Which one?" Because we've been on before we both started ours. We've been on a ton,
Yes. Yeah.
and we're like, "Oh yeah, we do remember that." And they
Yeah.
are out there.
Yeah. I just had somebody reach out from me from a podcast I did with Crystal Williams from 2 years ago. I was like, I remember what state I was in and what the hotel wallpaper looked like during that podcast. I was trying to find the corner and the lighting for it. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Yeah, it continues to work. So between all of these, how does every venture, how does every piece of this puzzle, you're obviously playing a chess game, like how does it complement? How does it strengthen each other? Is for your clients, do you have people that are in all three, that are in one, two, listening to the podcast, joining the group meetings, they're part of the collective, and you guys are helping them internally as well? And does that increase velocity for progress? What does it do? What have you noticed?
Yep, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. And we know that personally because that's what we did. Like when we were working with the group, when we still had all hours, like we were like, we are paying mass amounts of money. We are going to get the ROI on this. And so we were like full on in. And so we were doing all the things back then. Podcasts, well, they were a thing, but they weren't doing them. But yeah, I mean, that's how we've built this. Like anyone could be like one of our clients, and we offer as part of our clients, they've come part of my women's group exchange, and so they can be a part of that to level up even more. Then of course they have Chuck's podcast, my podcast, very different. Like your podcast, very different than ours. So it's all in what they're needing. Everything complements each other, and if they're doing all the things, like they're just going to continue to drive and soar in their business. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I would say for anybody watching, just remember that the average human changes two ways. Either a significant emotional event, which is usually not good. Those are the tail whoopings we get, the hard lessons, right? We ignored something and then had to learn the hard way. Or two, it's consistency and repetition, right? It's not that big event or the big conference with the keynote or the breakout or any of that. That doesn't do that. It's a fake, it's like a dopamine shot or whatever. That's a fake little moment. But true change comes from being all in and knowing that you need help to get where you need to go, and consistency and repetition. It's got to become part of your business. You have to make time, like make time. I make time for these podcasts come hell or high water. Our travel schedules are ridiculous. We're running our organizations. I've got 1,000 clients. I make time for self-study, improvement, coaching, and then to improve those disciplines that we need to have in order to make progress. So I would highly encourage anybody that wants to level up, is interested in increasing the velocity in which they do so, having some strategic direction, like reach out to Dana and her group. Dana and Chuck are absolutely amazing. Their team is amazing. And I enjoy you as a human. Like if we lived close, we'd be having wine.
I would agree. I would agree. Oh yeah, we would be for sure. Thank you. The feeling's mutual, and absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to leave our guests with while we're here?
Yeah, I think that, it's going based on what you said. Just continue to push. And even if you have, looks like 20 minutes a day, I remember listening to stuff in my car, like listening back then, it was like books on tape when I was driving to work every day. Like, what are you doing every day to better yourself? And so if you're already walking or working out or whatever, like just do the dual, listen at the same time. And that's how you get the little things in just to make yourself a better person.
Yes, leverage your minutes. Find the minutes. I don't care if you're sitting on the can, doing the walk, whatever. You have moments. They are available. Find them.
Absolutely.
I had to throw that in. Every time somebody gives me okay, just small story. Guy was like, I don't have time to upload pictures to my Google business listing. I was like, listen, you're going to take a little sticky note. You're going to put it right next to the TP in that restroom. And it's going to say upload photos to Google business profile. You got to sit down, take care of it. Find the minutes.
Exactly. Love it.
We all have time. We all have time. All right. Well, Dana, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you that have been listening today. We greatly appreciate you. Feel free. You can visit with both of us on the same call. We've got on lots of calls together. So if you want to visit, you want to cover all kinds of things, definitely reach out to us. Dana, how do they reach you?
You can just find us opusgolds.com. There's a link in there. You can do a meeting. That's probably the easiest way. Or Dana at opusgolds.com.
Perfect. That is awesome. You guys, thanks so much. You guys will see her email address as well as website there on the screen. Thank you so much for listening live. Of course, these are uncut, so you get what you get. And they're also recorded. You guys can check them out on Spotify and YouTube and all of the other great, whatever your fancy is for podcasts. We appreciate you taking time to work on your business, not in your business, for this moment of time you spent with us today. Leave us a comment. Like, share it with somebody who you think could use the information. Other than that, have a wonderful day. Make it productive. Thank you.